when the two tribal champions are set to face each other in an hour and a half in global warming ravaged Dallas, where the hospitals don't have power off and on, but the Cowboys Stadium, the religious temple, does. The religious temple of distraction and diversion from real issues. Hey, we're going into a depression. Our children have no future, but we get to have pat-downs by the TSA. Oh, that's right, they're there running things. And we get to be spied on, and the Army is involved as we're bathed in tyranny. What's good for third world police states, what's good for fictitious 1984s, why it's good for America. And we're going to be going over all of that today. Homeland Security Secretary inspects. She's our Reichsfuhrer. The borders are wide open, but she inspects to make sure we're safe. Aren't we glad that Mr. Napolitano, like Mr. Maddow, are there to inspect us and train us to have government put their hands down our pants to protect us from the evil terrorist. We're so lucky they're there to protect the foreign banks stealing tens of trillions, and not just our children's birthright, but our futures. She's there inserting herself at the publicity trough like the fat, demonic government hog that she is. They're training us to not trust anyone but the government, the last group in the world we should be trusting. Homeland Security Secretary inspects Super Bowl site, says fans have shared responsibility. It's a responsibility to spy on each other and watch each other because of our CIA boogeymen hiding in every jack-in-the-box. Here in the homeland, continuing big sis in the NFL, turned Super Bowl into police state. We've got some of her announcements coming up. And here's the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the 100,000-plus minions paying hundreds of dollars apiece to get in and watch a bunch of people engage in simulated combat. They get to have the government grab their genitals, and their children will be grabbed, of course, and be baptized into humiliation and third world tyranny and learn how to be loaded onto the FEMA trucks and taken to that facility as the government trains the military for that. TSA will keep an eye on the Super Bowl for everyone's safety. CNN reported this first in 2009, and it's a 3-year tradition. They're now doing it yet again here. So obviously today we are going to be covering this report for you and going over it, because I saw some other reports here talking about what a great American pastime it is that Americans don't have jobs anymore, and that the Steelers don't have steel mills anymore, but that people give pints of blood to get the money they need to. They give their blood all year and save up the money to be able to go to the game. They have no country, they have no industry, they have no Bill of Rights and Constitution, but CNN says, you know what? They can go feel pride through the overpaid steroid heads on the field, that when they're not gangbanging or fighting dogs to death or running around cussing on national TV, they're there keeping us safe. So it's just wonderful. Of course, there's nothing wrong with a football game, and I admire, obviously, athletes, but things have swung too far the other way on the pendulum, and we need to realize that we need to have some priorities here on this religious holiday. Now, I haven't gotten to the really big news yet, but I will get to that. I never thought I'd see the White House on their front page respond to a PrisonPlanet.com article, but they've done just that. We'll tell you about it straight ahead. Well, I am committing blasphemy today. For many Americans, I'm doing a live radio broadcast during the holiest day of the year. We don't really find God to be holy or important anymore, or the family, or our test scores, or our health, or our Bill of Rights and Constitution, or our dollar. It's all in decline, a usurped, captured country taken over by the foreign offshore central banks. But we've got our Super Bowl that roughly 70 million Americans are going to tune into today, and kickoff is in an hour and 25 minutes in the global warming ravaged Cowboys Stadium with collapsing tents from snow and hospitals not having power. But believe me, the Holy Temple, the taxpayer paid for temple to Jerry Jones, it is standing there. And Homeland Security in 9,000 locations, putting in telescreens, ordering you to spy on your neighbors, on other shoppers. People are paranoidly calling the police at Walmart where they're putting these in repeatedly for having cell phones, talking on them. We're learning that land of the free, home of the brave means being more Soviet than East Germany, being more 1984 than Big Brother. Fort Worth Telegram is reporting the TSA is running things, not just airports. So they've announced nationwide warrantless checkpoints. They have you and your family drive under super high-powered X-ray scanners. Well, in fact, I have a news clip on that. They don't worry about the TSA workers being fried by the radiation, doing it daily, or the citizens driving under it. The government waves a magic wand, just like they did 20 years ago, telling U.S. troops you can now use depleted uranium munitions. The Army's own reports on it admit that you get one whiff of it, it will reduce your life expectancy by about a third. But hey, what's a young 20-year-old breathing it, dying when he's 45 instead of 75? Hey, it's freedom. Hey, having TSA-trained goons stick their hands down your 5-year-old's pants at the Super Bowl, that's freedom. That's freedom to keep you safe from the vicious Al-Qaeda. And so I will be getting into the Super Bowl religion today, and I will commit the ultimate sacrilege, the ultimate abomination of evil. I will actually talk about what really made this country great, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the fact that that's been eroded by design. And I will talk about the dollar devaluation and the attacks on liberty in our country. During the last 30 minutes of the broadcast today, I may even commit a bigger abomination and read the Bill of Rights and Constitution, or parts of it on air, during this holy day, where we know all about the football scores, and you try to go to the store and pay for gas or go to the grocery store. Everybody wants to talk to you about the big game. But if you bring up to them loss of sovereignty or dollar devaluation or hyperinflation or the police state being set up with the Patriot Act, they look at you like you're a crazy man. That's right. Well, I'm a crazy man. You see, I actually care about liberty and freedom. And see, a lot of people think that liberty and freedom is like some nebulous thing, that it's only activists that care about it. Well, when you've had freedom so long, it's almost like our country doesn't have an autoimmune system. Here's a parallel or a parable based in history. 500 years ago, roughly, when Europeans showed up in the New World, Native Americans, or the indigenous populations, had never come in contact with smallpox. And so what would only kill a fraction of Europeans that came in contact with it, because they developed immunity over generations, or those that were susceptible had died, those that weren't susceptible had passed on their genes. When the Europeans arrived, millions, it's estimated, of natives from what is South America, Central America, Mexico, and, of course, further north into North America, all the way up into Alaska with the Inuit Eskimos. Millions and millions died because they'd never experienced smallpox. And that's kind of what Americans are like. We've never really experienced hardcore tyranny. We've had the incredible birthright that our forebears fought and died for. And so now hardcore, systematic, admitted, prima facie tyranny and corruption is here. And a lot of people are getting a little concerned and waking up, but they still don't know how serious it is. And so tyranny is so alien, hardcore, systematic Nazi or Soviet-style oppression is so alien that now that it's clearly manifesting itself and transcending political parties, it's the bureaucracy and the ruling political class that's the problem. The parties are just different chapters of the same organism, that we are in deep, deep trouble. Let me give you an example of tyranny. You see, if you have an all-powerful government that can do whatever it wants, so there's no Bill of Rights, no Constitution, no separation of powers, and you have an executive that can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter if Congress didn't pass the Kyoto UN Protocol last year, or the last 5 times before that they tried to ratify it, going back into the early 2000s. But now under tyranny, the president can just order the EPA to go around the country, and he's done it in the last 2 years, shutting off power plants in Kansas, South Dakota, Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas, and many other states. And then, have you noticed all over the country, your power prices have gone up? Mine have roughly doubled in the last 2 years in Austin. And Austin Energy admits that that's part of their target to cut carbon, is charging you more money. Of course, those are privately owned companies that they're involved with, and they're making big profits. And it did come out this week that Obama is putting even more greenhouse gas tax limits and controls on plants, except for General Electric, which is the biggest builder of the coal-powered plants in this country and worldwide. They get a waiver on the plants they build and the plants that they own. Do you think when folks want to invest now, they're going to invest with General Electric? Total mafia. And it has nothing to do with the rising seas and, oh my gosh, carbon dioxide is going to kill us. It has everything to do with selective enforcement, just like I've talked a lot about. And, of course, who's the new head of the economic board that makes all these decisions? The former head of General Electric is now the head of Obama's administration when it comes to economic situations. And, of course, you have seen the 500-plus waivers and counting given out to major global corporations. They don't have to get health insurance, but your company does. Another unfair trade advantage. See, Obama's not a liberal. He's not a conservative. He's not a communist. No, he is a corporate front man there to make you think there's a difference between the two major parties so that we'll all fight with each other and, like a football game, choose what party we're part of. And so basically the parties can act like they're fighting with each other but move the ball down the field against we, the people. And so now if you wonder why your apartment bill on average was $200 and now it's $400 on average, or you wonder why your house bill was $500 on average, is now $1,200. Well, understand, that's because they've shut down power plants all over the country, and they've restricted plants from increasing their power output or expanding. And big mega corporations have bought up smaller city-owned utilities, like the old Holly Street in Austin that could supply about half the city, and shut it down, automatically making their profits go up because there's less energy. You know, Hugo Chavez, they have more oil than the U.S. Per capita, per square mile. They have more coal, but they don't have power half the time. He does that because it's how he controls the population. And that's why we've had rolling blackouts all over the country. And that's not just my opinion. The Heritage Foundation has done an analysis concurring and sourcing our report. Anti-energy agenda could cause more rolling blackouts. Now, here's the big news of the day. We're going to get into this when we come back from the break. Last night, I was on one of my Facebook accounts just checking it for any news tips, and I saw a link at the top, White House. You can't believe everything you read. And the White House communications director, Dan Pfeiffer, attacked our story from Thursday that Fox, Drudge, and Limbaugh all covered on Friday, and said basically we're liars, that Obama didn't cause the blackouts. We're going to talk about that. Oh, yeah. Never thought I'd live to see it. The White House now responding to PrisonPlanet.com. We measure how much national television covers what we're doing and how many newspapers report on what we're doing as another indicator of how much success we're having. And every week, the Drudge Report links to us, or the New York Times or Newsweek blurbs what we're doing and basically attacks us in those cases. George Soros-owned media outlets like Media Matters attack us almost on a daily basis. And it shows the big effect we're having. A year ago, it came out in major newspapers that I am on the top 30 White House enemies list as number 29. And that's because I oppose the policies of this treasonous administration. And I've made a 15-minute video that's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com where I lay out the evidence of treason. when they put economic policies in place to ship our jobs to China and to fund China building 3 to 5 coal plants a week, but we can't have 3 new ones a year, attacking our very energy infrastructure is treason. And when only allowing insiders who finance presidential runs of people like Obama to operate power plants in the country, that's another form of mafia-style tyranny. But Thursday, Paul Watson and I wrote an article, Obama blocking of new power plants triggers nationwide blackouts. And Obama triggers blackouts became the #1 Google search term on Thursday into Friday. Fox News picked it up. The Drudge Report picked it up. Rush Limbaugh covered the story. And then on Friday, Media Matters, the George Soros-funded group, ran the headline, Fox turns to 9/11 truther and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones for content. And, of course, Soros basically is one of the biggest backers of Obama, and many of his minions actually are in cabinet positions in the White House. What I didn't notice until I was alerted to it yesterday afternoon is that on the front page of whitehouse.gov, and it's still on the front page, Saturday it was still at the top. It's moved to the bottom left-hand corner of whitehouse.gov. There it is, White House Communications Director press release. You can't believe everything you read by Dan Pfeiffer, the White House Communications Director. And they go on to say you can't believe everything you read. Really, Obama said he wouldn't have signing statements and has signed more per capita than Bush or Clinton or any other president. Obama promised to not have banker fat cats in his administration. He's got the biggest group of banker fat cats of anybody we've ever seen. He promised to balance the budget. He spent more than all presidents before him combined. I mean, everybody knows Obama's been a big liar. A big liar across the board. To try to chronicle those makes my head spin, but you can think of a lot of the lies yourself. But you can't believe everything you read. What a headline they've got here. And I'm going to go ahead and read over some of this article, and then I'm going to get into our rebuttal that Paul Watson and I put together last night. White House attacks prisonplanet.com report on blackouts. And this thing is so well-sourced, so documented, and doubly proves everything that we documented in our original article from Thursday. Obama's blocking of new power plants triggers nationwide blackouts. Furious hospitals hit with outages while post-industrial collapse of America accelerates. But going over this White House front page press release. And is the media, the lapdog media, going to challenge Obama on this? Because this breaks every rule of journalism right here. As valuable as the internet can be in helping to spread information, most people know that you can't believe everything you read. Yeah, especially, how do you know when a politician's lying? Their lips are moving. This is the same White House with their regulations are. Cass Sunstein on record, putting out policy papers saying arrest people that question man-made global warming. He's on record. So they want the kill switch. Oh, they really know how valuable the internet is. Every line is spin and deception. So it'll take a while to go over this press release. I'm sorry, every line is a fraud. As valuable as the internet can be in helping spread information, most people know that if you can't believe everything you read, and they should check the source before relying and relaying every alarming story they read. But here's the problem. They then don't give a link to the source they're trying to discredit. They don't even tell you who it is, Alex Jones, via Matt Drudge, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News. So right there they say, we love the internet, when they're actually trying to take over the free web on record. Then they go on and say you should check the source, but they don't give you the source. I'm about to get to that. See, every line is a deception. I mean, did the devil write this? Literally, everything in here is a lie. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Every line is a lie. Some lines of this have multiple lies per line. How do you counter something like this? Well, we have in the article by Alex Jones and Paul Joseph Watson, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Continuing, you can't believe everything you read. I think that's the only true statement in here. As valuable as the internet can be in helping spread information, most people know that you can't believe everything you read. And they should check the source before relying and relaying every alarming story they read. One such story is going around the internet over the past 2 days, claiming that the Obama administration is somehow responsible for the rolling blackouts in Texas. By the way, they're all over the country, from California to Arizona. Our article says that, by the way. So that's another lie. It's not just Texas. That have caused terrible hardship for so many Texans. I guess that's a little vein of truth there, too, that has caused hardship. The source is questionable, and the story is unquestionably false. But they do not give a source. They do not give a source. They do not. They just got done in the line before saying you've got to check the sources. In our article, every line has links to mainstream and government admissions, but with them, they don't give any links but one to the Houston Chronicle. According to the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, these blackouts were actually the result of extreme cold temperatures and high winds, which led to a variety of mechanical failures at more than 50 plants around the state. Let's stop right there. That's another giant, huge, stinking straw man. What's a straw man? They don't attack what we really said. They build a lie. Our article obviously says the cold weather taxed the power plants, and because we haven't built enough of them, we've had outages. And then we link to all the white paper and think tank reports stating that we're in a power deficit compared to China and others for our basic industrial needs, not to mention just general. So see the bait and switch there. Talking to you like your 5-year-old children, saying, oh, this unreputable source that we're not going to let you link to so you can make up your own mind and actually read, this unreputable source, just trust us, we're not going to put a link to them or even say who they are. They're saying that, and I noticed that was their counter in Media Matters, George Soros, their counter in a whole bunch of other newspapers that did attack us by name as the surrogates of the White House. They said Jones and the other lunatic writers said Obama flipped a switch and turned the power off when everyone knows it was cold weather. No, we said cold weather hit, and because we haven't built enough power plants, that there were huge power outages all over the country. Then they only say we said it was in Texas. I'm going to continue here. But see, this is the type of deception, the trained liars that we're dealing with. We're going to go over these lies one by one. Then I'm getting into the Super Bowl where they're sticking their hands down people's pants. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com reports on blackouts. Again, White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com report on blackouts. So did Media Matters, George Soros outfit. And they just tell lie after lie in this piece we're going through here. Anytime communities experience major outages, it is a cause for concern, and major utilities and regulators are investigating steps that can be taken to decrease any weather-related vulnerability of power generating plants in the state. Unlike their northern counterparts, which experience extreme cold every winter and often are not designed to withstand such rare weather conditions. So they go on to claim that we're having power outages, by the way, from, again, New York to California, because they don't experience regular cold. And they're implying that we're only talking about Texas here, when it's Texas that's supplying much of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and surrounding states' power, biggest power producer in the country. I mean, we have the clips of Obama saying that he wants to bankrupt coal plants, that you can build one, but they're going to put carbon taxes on you so high that it's going to bankrupt you. In fact, do we have that clip? Let's go ahead and roll that clip now. It's only 13 seconds for folks. Here it is.
Use coal without emitting greenhouse gases and carbon. And, you know, how can we sequester that carbon and capture it? If we can't, then, you know, we're going to still be working on alternatives. But
alternatives including coal or
let me sort of describe my overall policy. I mean, what I've said is that we would put a cap and trade system in place that is as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than anybody else's out there. I was the first to call for 100% auction on the cap and trade system, which means that every unit of carbon or greenhouse gases was emitted would be charged to the polluter. That will create a market in which whatever technologies are out there that are being presented, whatever power plants that are being built, that they would have to meet the rigors of that market and the ratcheted down caps that are imposed every year. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted. That will also generate billions of dollars that we can invest in solar, wind, biodiesel.
By the way, solar supplies 1% of the United States, and I looked up the Fed's admitted numbers. It cost 10 times as much money for every megawatt of wind power that you get compared to coal. Then they go on and lie and say that coal is incredibly toxic. I'm going to play a 3-minute news piece coming up the next segment where they go from the beginning to the end of the steps with coal and document that all that comes out of the smokestack is water vapor and carbon dioxide. Nothing else comes out. That's why they're saying they want to tax carbon now. With regulations that were reasonable in the last 50 years, they've made our coal almost completely perfectly clean. And even if we're going to move to something new, you're not going to do this overnight. And so the White House, and not just Obama, but Biden and others, are on record saying that they want to bankrupt coal. Now, continuing with the White House trying to counter our report, some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for. Well, of course the industry said it was the cold weather that caused them not to be able to meet demand. That's the point, is that we haven't built enough plants, and our prices have gone way up because they haven't built more plants. And only selective insiders like GE get to build new plants, so they get all the profits. See, it's all deception. Some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for, on the Clean Air Act standards under consideration to curb dangerous pollution. That's the new ratcheting up of the Kyoto Protocol that Congress hasn't passed. So here's another deception. They go on to say, well, we haven't implemented this yet. Yeah, because Texas is suing you. You tried to implement it last year. It's set to go into implementation next month, and the feds have taken over the Texas power plants that supply the surrounding 5 states with much of their power. So again, it's another deception here, claiming that they haven't put any of these new restrictions in yet. Obama took the already regulations that were in place and used those, and we have an article countering this, and the article that we originally wrote shows all the examples. Headline, Obama EPA shuts down South Dakota plant. Obama EPA shuts down Georgia plant. Obama EPA shuts down Texas plant. Obama EPA denies permit to new plant. Obama EPA moves to block new Corpus Christi power plant. On and on and on. Our article is big and beefy and thick and long and filled with links. There's nothing in Obama's article. They're just shoveling you lies. Some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for, on the Clean Air Act standards under consideration to curb dangerous pollution, including carbon pollution. Oh, to curb dangerous pollution, including carbon pollution, which is carbon dioxide that humans exhale that plants breathe, that plants live off of. While these claims gain traction on the internet, there is a major problem with this theory. No power plant in Texas has yet been required to do anything to control carbon pollution. They're calling carbon dioxide. See, because nothing's coming out of them now but water vapor and carbon dioxide. And they know that the general public knows that water isn't bad, so they pick the other thing coming out of them and call it carbon pollution. Yeah, carbon dioxide. In December, the EPA announced that it intended to update important Clean Air Act standards for decades, have decreased harmful pollution, and protected public health. In the coming months, the EPA will work closely with key stakeholders, including industry, that means GE, who's exempt, to develop a common sense standards for currently unchecked dangerous carbon pollution. And then when you read closer what they're talking about, that's carbon dioxide. But the average person reading this goes, oh, well, they're trying to save me from pollution. Any standard which will leverage existing technologies and only apply to the largest polluters will not be proposed until later this year, allowing an extensive public comment period, and following that additional input, no final rule is scheduled to be in place until late 2012. They're already implementing all this stuff for 2 years. We've got countless links to mainstream news where they've been shutting them down. More lies. Despite these modest steps, you just heard Obama say he wants the most draconian of any country, a 50% cut. You just heard the president say he wants to bankrupt them. You just heard them say he wants the most draconian. I got clips of Biden, by the way, in our article saying you're not going to be allowed to have a plan. But here they are lying, saying, we just want some modest, reasonable. Come on. Despite these modest steps, many continue to mischaracterize this process, making unsubstantiated claims about the impact that this will have on everything from industry to energy prices. Energy prices are way up. No one denies that. The most recent effort simply underscores a willingness to ignore the facts, they presented none here, to further an agenda that seeks to stop the EPA from sensible updates to the Clean Air Act. No, it's the Kyoto Protocol Treaty that you couldn't get rammed through, that you couldn't get passed, that the Congress wouldn't pass, and so now they're having congressional hearings about it. The state of Texas and others are suing you, just like the Health Care Act is being ruled unconstitutional. And Obama's giving hundreds of waivers to his friends like McDonald's, and then Whataburger or Burger King don't get waivers, and their prices have to go up, and they got to buy insurance, but McDonald's doesn't. It's the same thing here. In fact, if we can pull up that headline, it was in the AP, it was also in the Washington Examiner. Obama gives GE exemption on new clean air rules, but no one else gets these exemptions. This is what we're talking about. This is unfair, this is wrong, and it's for insiders to make giant profits. The former head of GE that lobbied for all of this just 2 years ago is now the head of the President's Economic Council. Talk about conflict of interest. And by the way, it's not just us saying this. After we reported on it, and they linked to our story, the Heritage Foundation concurred. There's the headline. Obama issues global warming rules in January, exempts GE power plants in February. Stay with us. We're going to break it all down. We're live. It's Sunday, the 6th day of February, 2011. Super Bowl Sunday. I'm going to be talking about the police state at the Super Bowl, the latest developments in Egypt, and a lot more coming up in the next hour. But the bottom line here is, look at how weak the White House is. Look at how scared they are of PrisonPlanet.com. Yes, PrisonPlanet.com, according to Alexa ratings and Google Analytics, does get more visitors than MSNBC.com. They're afraid of the alternative media. They're afraid of talk radio, which is why they're openly moving to censor and attack free speech and put the fairness doctrine back into place. Read our article that got the White House so upset and then compare it to the White House's response, which we just chronicled the lies in. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com report on blackouts. Our original article picked up by Fox News. They just took our story and directly linked to it. Obama's blocking of new power plants triggers nationwide blackouts. But they put a question mark on the end of it. And again, our article was about nationwide. You saw it last week, from California to New York, power outages all over the place because they've cut back so much. Now, for the insiders that are still allowed to operate, they make bigger profits, and that's great. But we become like Venezuela. You know why Ceausescu fell in '89? Because he controlled the only power plants in the country and used it to become a billionaire and build big palaces. And the Romanians, it's on even CIA fact book, they admit, rebelled mainly over the rolling blackouts that they were so sick of. So another sign of authoritarianism. Now, the biggest lie in their report isn't that they didn't link to us so people could see what we actually said, or that we said it was just a Texas issue, or to imply that we didn't say it was originally triggered by the cold weather, but that, again, we couldn't respond because of lack of power plants. It's where they keep saying horrible carbon pollution. Now, I have family who have been engineers, one of them's retired now, and worked in both oil refineries and coal power plants. And I've seen them over the years get so angry when they hear reports about dirty coal. There are federally mandated sensors in the stacks. If anything but carbon dioxide and water comes out, alarms go off, they have to shunt all the smoke into a holding area and basically turn the power plant off. They're not allowed to release any. The federal government has Cessnas that fly above every major plant every day with their own sensors. And so I thought I would play for you, just to illustrate this lie, a piece that was done with the officials of the Chesterfield plant outside Richmond, Virginia. Now, this is the modern type of plant that by federal mandate, and that's reasonable, has been in place for at least the last 30 years. There are no coal-powered plants out there that are not scrubbing the exhaust, okay? So I'm going to play this clip right now. It goes through a giant catalytic converter. Then it goes through all these other scrubbers, and nothing comes out but carbon dioxide and water vapor. So the feds are saying, we're going to say that carbon dioxide's bad and restrict it. So the power companies say, okay, we'll start shunting it into old wellheads. We'll put it underground. They say, no, you're not allowed to do that. And so your prices are going up. And now it's going to get worse. Obama's other big lie is claiming that they haven't put anything new in place in the last 2 years and that nothing's changed. That's another lie. We have countless links in our article responding, and our original article, to mainstream news headline, Obama's EPA shuts down this power plant, that power plant. 13 power plants shut down in Pennsylvania. 7 shut down in Texas. You know, I mean, it goes on and on. But they're counting on you being ignorant. But it shows the power of the alternative media. And it shows that the crooks in Washington are just men like us. They're not invincible, and responding to them with the truth is having an effect to the point of where the WhiteHouse.gov on its front page in the last 2 days has been responding to the story we put out that was then picked up by newspapers nationwide, and major think tanks like Heritage Foundation and others concurred with our analysis. We gave facts, they gave lies. Now, here's a short clip breaking down the process. The video's posted in our article, responding to it. If you're a radio listener and want to see the video, not just hear the audio, it's posted in the article, White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com, reports on blackouts at PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com. Here's that clip.
This plant burns about a train load of coal per day, which is about 100 train cars. Each train car holds about 100 tons. It's about 10,000 tons of coal per day.
This is the whole process from start to finish.
Chesterfield Power Station consists of 4 coal units and 2 gas-fired units. The coal units operate very simply. We take coal, comes in coal cars each day, and we crush it up, run it on conveyor belts into the plant.
And most of it's domestic.
And then it goes to another stage where it's crushed into very fine powder like talcum powder.
This is energy
independence. At that point,
independence.
it's blown by large fans into the furnace where it combusts and makes heat. That heat energy is transferred through tubes into water on the other side and boils that water into steam. That steam then runs large steam turbines that run a shaft that turns a generator that then makes electricity that's delivered to our customers. Right. That's the actual coal dust flowing into the flame. Very, it looks like a little dark shade.
But if anybody's allowed to set these up,
our Chesterfield Power Station, as we have at most of our power stations,
they
we
won't
have
make
devices
profit
within the furnace that help reduce our nitrous oxide production. Nitrous oxide is a component that ultimately can become smog in the atmosphere. So we like to reduce that right at the furnace. We use low nitrous oxide burners and overfired air to reduce it in the boiler itself. Once the gas comes out of the boiler, on 3 of the 4 units here, we have devices called selective catalytic reduction devices. And that's like the catalytic converter on your car. It takes the nitrous oxide that's produced in the furnace when you combust air and coal and separates out the nitrous oxide back into nitrogen and oxygen, which is available in the air as we breathe it today. So it basically puts it back the way it was before it went through the combustion process. Once the flue gas comes out of that, it goes through a device to remove particulate matter, either electrostatic precipitator, which is like electrostatic air cleaner in your home.
That's a dry scrubber.
Or it goes through a bag house. A bag house is very similar to the bag you might have on your vacuum cleaner at home. The air goes through, any particulate matter gets stuck in the bag. And we periodically empty those bags out and clean them and replace them. The last step is a scrubber or a flue gas desulfurization device. That removes the sulfur dioxide and the mercury from the flue gas. And the way they work is quite simple. We take limestone and grind it up into a fine powder, mix it with water to create a slurry, and then spray that into the flue stream. The flue gas goes through this limestone mixture and chemically creates a chemical which becomes gypsum. It's the same stuff that's used in wallboards. In fact, this facility will supply gypsum to a local wallboard manufacturer to recycle the material into wallboard for people to use in their homes. And once you do that, the mercury and the sulfur dioxide comes out of the flue gas. What you see go up the stack has moisture in it and no more sulfur dioxide or mercury.
All right. None. There are sensors on it. They're not allowed to release any. It's water vapor and carbon dioxide that plants breathe. And I've seen major university studies where just the surrounding plants and trees and grass around a coal-powered plant grow faster or healthier. You can just pull up studies, show increased carbon dioxide makes plants healthier and grow faster, increased crop yields. In fact, the Earth has had, well, just in the last 100,000 years, 14 times higher carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than it has now. We're in a carbon-starved position. The life cycle on our planet is carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, and sunlight. You've got to have those 4 basic ingredients. And so the White House keeps talking about carbon pollution, but to sum it all up, if you have a true free market and cities, counties, private interest build power plants, that's competitive supply and demand. It drives down prices massively. Massively drives down prices. But if you're insiders and you can get globalists in place all over the world, not just here, they can use governments to shut down all the smaller plants or plants that aren't insiders. They won't get the waivers. They can't release carbon dioxide, but then General Electric and a handful of others, they do. Meanwhile, a bunch of plants have been built by globalists on the U.S.-Mexico border, on the Mexican side, where there is no controls. They actually put the mercury right into the air. Then that blows across, but they can do it cheaper and then supply the U.S. and make even bigger profits. So they use regulations to shut down their competition. Now, coming back in the next hour, shifting gears, the TSA is there running it in Dallas, up there at Cowboy Stadiums. They are sticking their hands down people's pants. They are doing the pat-downs. This is part of the slave training of America. We're going to go over the police state as well, get into what's happening in Egypt and a lot more on the other side. But did you ever think you'd see it where whitehouse.gov responding to us with a tissue of lies and propaganda, and it shows they're on the defensive and the info war is having huge effects. So I salute everybody that helped get that story out. Let's get our counter story out as well right now. It's at Infowars.com. Second hour coming up. We can get into the economy. We can get into the police state demonstration going on to train everybody how to be a good slave at the Super Bowl up there in Dallas. You're welcome to get into the situation with our energy being cut off by the globalists. Our government's done everything they can to move industry offshore. It's the stated goal, and this is in Paul Watson's articles, what upset the White House so much. The quotes by Obama and others about a post-industrial United States and how they want to bankrupt the once free market system to get control of our lives. I want to hear from you on all of that. But what a joke. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Or I think you protest too much. You can't believe everything you read. Whitehouse.gov saying don't believe. PrisonPlanet.com. Very, very exciting. On that front, we're going to be going over more of that. Also, if I've got time later, I'm going to play this. If not, tomorrow on the weekday show. Bill Gates, vaccine autism link, an absolute lie, because he says so. And they try to, again, use Dr. Wakefield as the example when they lied about him and said that he'd never had anybody else duplicate his findings, when we now learn people had done the same findings before him and after. Here's another article today out on this. Another study links autism to vaccines. And this is out of researchers at the University of Pittsburgh at the Thoughtful House Center for Children. So we've got all of that right there. We're going to be getting into that as well today. But these globalists say we're eating too much, we're spending too much, we have too much leisure time, we're living too well, we're hurting the earth. And obviously there's some truth that people are wasteful and we've gotten decadent, but it is the pot calling the kettle black when Prince Charles has his own private train and more than 20 aircraft, all these palaces. His mother gets government payments to pay for heating all their palaces, but old ladies are having their power turned off. And here's this report out of the Daily Mail. Ever heard of too many cooks? Mayor Bloomberg spends $250,000 a year, or $245,000 of taxpayers' dough, employing 3 chefs at Gracie Mansion. $245,000 a year for his 3 high-priced chefs. But he openly wants your guns, and it's for total gun bans, and he wants carbon taxes on you and wants bans on non-essential travel, which means a big fat tax. We will let you travel. Just pay us a tax to take a train or drive your car, tax by the mile with a satellite reader box, or to fly an airplane. I mean, what a monster. Same with Al Gore. You know, he buys $10 million houses right on the beach, and he supposedly, where he bought the house was already supposed to be underwater because of global warming. Meanwhile, we're in a global freeze. But Phil just showed me something during the break. The $1.1 billion Cowboy Stadium, paid for by taxpayers, for Jerry Jones, the big distraction in the sky, the big political diversion. Don't worry, it didn't have any of the rolling blackouts last week or today. They're having some blackouts in Dallas. Hospitals don't have power. Police stations have had power outages because it's exempt, because it's an important part of the religious distraction. But Phil pointed out it looks like the old Justice League Legion of Doom. You know, the Justice League had the Justice League building, but then the bad guys had the Legion of Doom. In fact, there's some other examples of the Legion of Doom's flying sports stadium, Police State Center. And that's basically, show them some of the other Legions of Doom if they're watching on prisonplanet.tv. But compare Cowboy Stadium, the new one, not the one they blew up, to the Legion of Doom. And there you have it. And it is now the Legion of Doom, where Homeland Security is using it as a giant end cap, a giant promotion arm, as they roll out. Remember Obama during the State of the Union? In fact, maybe we can find that clip real quick on YouTube. Obama says you won't have to do pat-downs on trains. Obama says you can skip pat-downs if you take fast rail. Well, wait a minute. No, TSA admits they're going to be in rail, sports stadiums, grabbing your junk, and now they are. Yeah, and who has the money to pay for all of this? The Communist Chinese. They're building one of the big rails out in California. That's a lie, Obama. I saw Governor Ridge 8 years ago, then head of Homeland Security, say that TSA will be a national federal police force. And I have a video clip of Obama. In fact, we'll cue that up later. Obama calls for domestic security force just as big and just as strong as our military. Remember that quote? And they admit it is the minimum wage TSA workers. And I have a TSA TV ad that aired 2 weeks ago that we've played here, that we wrote articles about at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, where they show the Buccaneers football team in Florida and say the TSA will now be at sports stadiums, at theater events, and will train your local police as well. So it's a complete violation of states' rights, the 10th Amendment. It's a total federal power grab. They won't protect our borders. They've canceled both the virtual fence and the physical fence. Never really got started building either one of them, except for show. All of this is going on. All of this is happening. And Obama, at the State of the Union, makes a joke a few weeks ago about, don't worry, you're not going to get pat-downs on the trains. CNN reports that they are losing more than $10 billion a year in people in surveys admitting they're not flying. I won't fly with my children. I can't sit there. This happened to one of my employees. This kicked off the whole national TSA controversy 4 months ago. Michelle in my office, her year-and-a-half-old daughter and her 7-year-old daughter, they tried to have men grab their crotches. A man did grab Michelle. And now Jesse Ventura's suing over it. Bob Barr is getting ready to sue over it. Former congressman, former presidential candidate. And they say, oh, don't get mad about somebody actually sticking their hands in your pants. And I have the TSA announcement. I have the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Obama, another liar. Don't worry, you can ride the light rail or you can ride the fast rail and you won't have anybody stick their hands down your pants. That is a complete and total lie. Here is the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It's up on Infowars.com. Also, Drudge Report has it top linked. Routine items not allowed at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Then it goes on. As part of increased security surrounding the Super Bowl, NFL and federal authorities are limiting. See, the feds now run a sports stadium. The feds are now involved in your local town. Totally illegal. Are limiting what fans can bring to Cowboy Stadium. Everyone entering the stadium must pass through a magnometer, such as those used at airports, and get a pat-down as part of the screening process. And see, first it's take your shoes off. Then it's answer questions. Now we're going to pat you on the outside of your genitals. Now we're going to go in your pants. And when I first reported on that 4 months ago, people didn't believe me. Then they came out and said, yeah, we do go in your pants. And Jesse Ventura's lawsuit, I've been flying with Jesse when we did the TV show together. And I've seen him go right between his pants and right, in between his gluteus maximus crack. And I've never been called out yet to have it done, but the Homeland Security admits they want to phase this in for everybody. This is the humiliation. Do we have that clip of Napolitano, the head of Homeland Security, forcing her way into our lives, creating fear, telling us that only the feds can save us? She's got 9,000 locations with telescreens saying, watch other shoppers, watch your neighbors, but trust the federal government. Oh, the internet's dangerous, be careful. This is 1984 with public video screens with Big Brother, but in this case it's Big Sister, for all intents and purposes, up there saying, don't trust anybody. Up there, saying, oh, Homeland Security. Here's the headline. TSA will keep an eye on fans at Super Bowl, CNN. Here's another one. Homeland Security Secretary inspects Super Bowl site, says fans have shared responsibility for security at game and across the country. It's our responsibility to be good little Stasis. See, they're trying to popularize the tattletale snitch society. But then when you go to a Homeland Security training drill, and we've got the video and their own manuals, they spend 20 minutes on Al-Qaeda in a 2-day training seminar. The rest is your neighbor growing pot? Are they spanking their kids? Are they talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve? Do they have firearms? Go ahead and call Homeland Security. Remember 2 years ago, law enforcement sent us the secret Homeland Security report for police that made national news that said conservatives, libertarians, Ron Paul supporters, Bob Barr supporters, people that criticize the IRS, people that have American flag bumper stickers, people that have get us out of the UN stickers, they're the #1 threat. And now Napolitano and the head of the Justice Department as well have all come out and said, yes, it's a domestic threat. You got a better chance of being killed in a car wreck or running into a deer or falling off the porch and hitting your head than you do of being killed by terrorists, much less domestic. But it's this, oh, it's everywhere. Oh, we're in so much danger. Oh, you take your kids to the Super Bowl, we got to pat their genitals. Again, if they can get away with that, anything. The feds are setting up grants for warrantless blood draws all over the country. This is about government training you to be a prisoner. Do we have the Napolitano clip? Yes, let's go ahead and play Napolitano forcing her way in at press conferences, being at the Super Bowl. She's the big celebrity. She's the one that keeps you safe. What will we do without her? Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
We are partnering this year with the NFL on our If You See Something, Say Something campaign and launching this NFL partnership right here at the Super Bowl.
Okay, I see government corruption.
The idea is simple. We are simply asking the American people to be vigilant, recognizing that our security is a shared responsibility that all of us must participate in. If a fan at the Super Bowl or any American at any other place sees something that is potentially dangerous, then say something about it to local law enforcement or someone in authority.
That's enough for her. Remember a month ago I called the Homeland Security See Something, Say Something flyer phone number? Will you guys find me that phone number again? I think at the end of the show, I'm going to call and report criminality. I see a federal government that my founding fathers warned me about taking over state sovereignty and being involved in every facet of my life. I see the feds funding warrantless checkpoints, taking warrantless blood draws under federal grants. I see the federal government enabling foreign banks to loot us like a third world country and steal $28 billion, according to Bloomberg Financial a year ago. I see the Associated Press reporting a secret deal signed with Prudential 11 years ago to steal the death benefits of all veterans. I see all sorts of criminality going on. I saw a CIA aircraft a few years ago crash in Mexico with 3.5 tons of pure cocaine from the source. I want to report that. I see tyranny taking place. I see Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama. Oh, it gives me a headache to think about it. I see him openly, in our face, giving General Electric waivers and shutting down many of the other plants around the country that don't pay him off. I see him giving hundreds of waivers to major corporations to not have to buy health insurance when their competition does have to buy it. I see treason going on everywhere. And see, when somebody's trying to say, oh, let's stop crime, oh, let's keep everybody safe, who do you think's really behind not keeping us safe? I am boldly here exposing these people. And now I've had the White House respond to me in a press release on Friday trying to tell a bunch of lies about the fact that Obama has sworn to, quote, bankrupt the coal industry and coal-powered plants. I played the clip of him saying it. Why do you think your energy prices on electricity have doubled in the last few years on average? Why do you think this is going on? I see a lot of treason going on. The government has been taken over by offshore interest. We're going to come back and go to Roland. Roland to the Dark Tower came. And we're going to talk to Lauren, Jonathan, Jim, Melvin, Nick, Danny, Nate, George, Scanner, and others. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones, PrisonPlanet.tv.
My first memories, they shot Kennedy. I went numb when I learned to see.
Yeah, he went numb when they learned the scene. All right, I want to go to your phone calls, and I am going to call Homeland Security here on air and report real evidence of terrorism in the last segment of the broadcast. I've done it before. This will be the second time I've done it, and I suggest you do it. They want us all tattling on each other, watching each other, while these criminals are running our country. And I've got a video up on PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com that I produced Thursday that we posted yesterday where I lay out the treason of this globalist seizure of our energy system. Alex Jones calls out Obama for treason. Folks, I'm not playing games. I've got the White House responding to what we do here. We've got every major news outlet you can name covering what we're up to because we're hitting the heart of the matter. That spot on the underbelly of the dragon that's weak. I know the truth. I've done the studying. I want to save this country. I know there's good people in government and in general society who don't like what's happening. We've just got to stand up and say no to this brazen corruption. That's all it takes. It's so illegitimate. All we've got to do is recognize it and say no. And that's why they're so scared of what I'm doing here. Roland in New Jersey, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Jones.
Good to have you on board. What do you think of the rant so far?
You're well-timed today. Well-timed today, sir. There's a lot of people watching the football game, and, I don't begrudge them the fact that it's a interesting sport. But like I said to my wife, at what point, do you say there's more important things to worry about?
Yeah, what do you value? I'm not saying the Super Bowl's bad, but having it be used as a police state promotion item every year is bad, and taking your kids in there to have TSA grope them. I mean, look at the TSA's taking over society. You heard Obama say, don't worry, the TSA will only grope you at the airports. That's a lie.
Yes, sir. And I actually have a quick, before I tell you my quick TSA story at Penn Station, New York, I do want to tell you that in my mind, you are General Jones, and to anybody that doesn't appreciate what you're doing every day for 15 years, this is not a joke, and this isn't a shtick, like Howard Stern mentioned one time. Okay, this is not a shtick. This is you every day, day in and day out doing this, and I want you to know we love you, and we got your back, and I got 25 million friends just like me, sir. So about a month ago, I was walking up, I work in New York. I work for a big multinational law firm. But
I thought you only get groped on the planes, Obama said in the State of the Union. Oh, for 6-7 years they've been at Penn Station groping people and going through your bags.
Oh, yeah. I walked right up to him outside. I saw him going up the escalator, and it was after, I think, your employee's story broke and the heat really got on him. And so I went out there, and and asked him for a light. You know, I'd rolled a cigarette for myself, and I asked him for a light, and I said, "Wow, you guys got guts coming out here with your letters like that." And the one guy, there was two guys, an older one, a younger one. The one got a little aggressive, but the older calmed him down. And to make a long story short,
how dare you, a slave, talk to a god? You think this is America?
Yeah, I let him know it was, but yeah. So the one guy said, you know, his excuse for the it was after the airline union came out against the body scanners, and his response was,
which they admit give you cancer, but also what?
Exactly, and I said that. I said, these guys are pilots, man. I have my life in their hands. I mean, why do you need to scan them? And his response was, well, you just want them to smuggle drugs in. So that's the level of ignorance that we were dealing with. No,
I hear you. I got to jump roll them, but great points. I have several newscasts. We don't have time to play them, but they're on InfoWars and Prison Planet right now, and we saw this 2 years ago, where the National Guard in New York has these giant X-ray systems that scan cars. And I've had radiologists on. It's 10, depending on the unit, to 30 times a chest X-ray. And there's the TSA and the National Guard out there with local cops training them. It's all federalization. Just standing there while they have a family driving their van under it. I mean, they're frying the family. But the family may just get scanned every once in a while. This was a hardcore industrial-powered X-ray with cops just standing there. And when those guys get cancer, nobody's going to take care of them. That's what I mean. It's so crazy. It has not randomly in Tennessee, Texas, Ohio. I've got all these newscasts where the TSA now is running scanners on the side of the highway randomly to stop Al-Qaeda. Give me a break. What they're really looking for is drugs that haven't paid their cut. The CIA, the big banks, I mean, one of the big banks just pled guilty last month to $300+ billion in drug money they laundered, buying the drug cartels. In fact, that was Reuters and Bloomberg. Bank pleads guilty to $300+ billion in drug laundering. And it turns out, I know the name of the bank, but I don't want to say it without it being on screen because I sometimes get stuff wrong. Google that, guys. I want to put that on screen. They ship it all in, and they spend all their time trying to shut down the small guys because that drives down their prices. So it's all a big business. Let's talk to David in Germany. David, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. How's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, actually, this is just something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just never got around to it. So tonight's a good night. I just wanted to ask you about something from way back when in 2001, if I could, just because it's been bothering me a lot, and I couldn't really get good answers on the internet and what other sources I was looking at. So, and that is. What always bothered me was these anthrax attacks that happened in 2001. And
no, it's confirmed and admitted that it was a super U.S. government strain and launched. They blamed 3 different people for it and murdered the last guy. And it was buried in the news that he died in government custody, the last scientist. So they finally said, we keep trying to blame patsies. Let's just go ahead and murder a patsy. But we actually even know, and it's out there on record, the name of the government U.S. agent that actually launched the attacks.
Well, what's the name?
You can pull it up if you want. I'm not going to do it on radio. There's too much liability associated with it, but it's actually been covered by major newspapers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the story just kind of disappeared, and it was just really bothered me how...
Yeah, the FBI claimed that it had been made in a bathtub, and it turned out it was the most U.S. weaponized, most powerful ever seen in history. And it was launched by the government to try to get the Patriot Act passed.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know that wasn't really your topic, so I appreciate it. I just wanted to ask that quickly. Also, I wanted to mention that I'm here in Germany right now.
Deutschland.
And I don't know if you were aware or how much information you've done on German media, but we've got this station here called Phoenix that's a political station that runs here. And they've been doing a lot of documentaries. I've counted 2 this year. One was disproving that 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah, no. I've been on German TV and radio quite a few times. I don't remember how many times, but I've interviewed the former head of German CIA, Andres von Bülow. He was also the former defense minister, and he wrote a book in 2003 titled "The CIA Carried Out 9/11." In German, it translates to that, and he lays it all out. And also the former Italian president has come out and said it was an inside job. But I know the Germans are waking up big time. Now, here's the deal. I got about 15 phone calls online. Have your question, your comment ready, because I want to hear from all of you. But I got to get to you. And I can't be too long-winded if you ask me questions. So Jonathan, Jim, Melvin, Nick, Danny, Nate, George, Scanner, Ryan, stay with us. I promise to document everything I say. So there's Bloomberg. I couldn't find the AP headline. And scroll back up. I'll show folks the headline. It's banks financing Mexico gangs admitted in Wells Fargo deal. And you scroll down, it admits Wells Fargo and Wachovia admittedly laundered $378.4 billion in narcotics money in just a 2-year period, 3-year period, 2004, 2007. So I guess 4-year period. So there you go, $378.4 billion. Oh, but we have to search you all at the Super Bowl. You might have drugs on you. It's really a genius business model. Sell you the drugs, and then if they catch you with them, put them in a private prison owned by banks that deal the drugs. But here's the Bloomberg article. Oh, we've got to make you and your family drive under a high-powered highway radiation scanner to stop Al-Qaeda. But then when you complain, they say, well, it's really for drugs, but they're shipping them in. Grow up, America. Go back to the Founding Fathers. They had common sense. They'd been through tyranny before. Rediscover the Bill of Rights and Constitution. Say no to the New World Order. I'm going to call Homeland Security in the next segment, live on air. And I'm going to report real terrorism to them, so stay with us. Lauren in Ohio, you're on the air. Welcome. Good to hear from you.
Alex.
Hey.
Hey, man. I'm so glad that you got me. So listen, you are so cool. I mean, you are so on top of what's going on. I have to go back and say this one thing. I was actually calling about building our own American empire and about... Can you take him out of here, please? I'm sorry. I got the baby in here. Okay. About how we can do our own power and what we used to do. I'm looking at a very old book. It's from the 1950s. It's the Republican platform of 1888. On the southeastern states, it says, protection to American corn, hemp, rice, and fruits. The thing that it says over California, no more coolie. Now we've got the Chinese building the high-speed rail, and they're going to own it.
And well, hey, I mean, that's fitting. Turnabout is fair play. It was the hundreds of thousands of Chinese basic slaves the coolies who built the railroads, or a lot of them, and so now they get to own it.
But we can stop it. And the reason that they want to keep marijuana illegal is so that we can't use hemp, the product.
Well, I mean, it's on record in the 20s. That Dow Chemical and DuPont funded movements to ban hemp. Most varieties have no THC, won't get you stoned, because it makes better oil to run vehicles. It makes better cotton, a cotton-like substance, and it can be grown anywhere, including the desert. It is a super crop. Most of our sails and, of course, rigging, the ropes for our navies were hemp. Hemp is a magical plant, and that's why you can't grow it here, but you can anywhere else.
And the thing is, what we need to do is we need to call our congressmen, call our senators. We want an American empire. Why aren't we growing jobs at home? Why are we over there in the Suez Canal worried about whether or not Egypt's going to blow up? They're already raising up the prices. We already know what they're going to do. It's the same game all the time. And let me just tell you this one thing, and then I'll shut up and get off. Why is this happening to us? We're giving our children to their care, to their education all day long. Those kids get up. They're in their care all day long. You wave at them at dinner time, and then they go out to do their new math and their whole language and their postmodern
And that's why everybody's dumbed down, which is exactly what the globalists admit they want. Lauren, great points. Jonathan in Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
Alex, how you doing?
Good.
I have a statement real quick. What is it called? Consequences. Well, I had a whole statement. Anyway, I live in Philadelphia, and the MOVE movement back in the 70s, they blew up a building with kids, women, and children. Rizzo. So if you believe that they won't do it to you, Look at history.
Well, the feds burned down Waco and blamed it on them, and now it's been declassified that it was a government op. The Delta Force did it. So absolutely, look, if they'll kill 1 million Iraqis, they'll kill us. This isn't our government. It's been taken over by ruthless scum.
Yeah, you're right. And enough is enough when you no longer fear the consequences.
Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yep. All I got to say.
Jonathan, are you still there? What do you think of them doing groping, TSA groping, run by the TSA at the Super Slave Bowl?
Well, I was just through there. I'm a truck driver. I just drove through Dallas, and I had a friend who lived in Dallas telling me that they're getting ready to do all that groping and everything. My answer is this: if you let them grope you, you deserve to be groped. I mean, I'm not letting nobody grope me. You touch me, you might get knocked. You might get punched in the face or whatever. But
well, that's what Ron Paul has said. I appreciate your call. Great points, Jonathan. I could talk to these callers for an hour apiece, but we got to get to everybody. Jim in Arkansas, you're on the air worldwide.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
I guess the thing I want to say to you is I've never heard you or any of your guests concerning CO2 mention a very simple, practical demonstration. I mean, if CO2 is a poisonous gas, then how does the terrarium work?
Well, the government, Penn and Teller did it. We've done it. If you go to a city park during an environmentalist event, close to 95% will sign a petition to ban dihydrogen monoxide because it sounds scary. And carbon dioxide sounds scary. And they've done other studies where over 90% will sign a form to ban sodium chloride. Now, of course, sodium chloride is table salt, and dihydrogen monoxide is water. But when they say, the power plants are putting out carbon dioxide, run for the hills, we're all dead, they're counting on the public not knowing that that's what plants breathe and that it's a trace gas and that we need more of it. I mean, that's why in earlier periods of the planet, when there was, I had Lord Monckton on, he corrected me a month ago or two, I said it's been 14 times higher. And he said, no, Alex, incorrect. It has been 58 times previously recorded from the mudflat readings. And I went and looked it up, and it was true. Conservatively, 50-plus times. Some studies show over 100 times. The gas that plants breathe is an incredibly small part of the overall atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is good. We're actually terraforming the planet with the paltry amounts of carbon dioxide we put out. That's why the studies show a major volcanic eruption puts out more carbon dioxide than human activity in the last century because the volcanoes are life-giving. Great point. Anything else, Jim?
No, that's it.
Good to hear from you, evil al-Qaeda person. You saw the White House come out and say, we're liars, carbon dioxide's evil. A press release about prisonplanet.com. Obama wouldn't lie to us. Carbon dioxide is evil. It's evil. Melvin in New York City, go ahead. Hey, Melvin. All right, let's move on to Danny in Tejas. Danny, you're on the air from Texas.
Hey, Alex, how you going?
Good.
Kudos to you to be out doing what you talk about and what you say. You walking the walk instead of just talking the talk, not sitting at home watching football.
You couldn't pay me to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, no, seriously. I went into my wife today. I want you to be able to talk, but about 2 hours before I came into the office, and I just said, honey, let's make the decision right now. I shouldn't talk about this today. It's too big of a deal to talk about briefly. But we went ahead and prayed to God, kneeling by the bed while our kids were outside playing, to go ahead and stay in America. But we know what's going to happen, and we've decided to go down with the ship. So how I'm going down with the ship, I'm committed my kids to live in a tyranny to try to beat it, and I'm going to watch some stupid game that's a big police state advertisement where they're groping people to go into it. No, I'm boycotting the Super Bowl. You know what? Stay there, Melvin. I'm going to come back to you. And I'll try to jam in a few more. Danny, Nate, George, Scanner, Ryan. But I got to call Homeland Security live on air. Done it before. This will be the second time. I'm going to call them. They say, see something, say something. Well, I'm not just going to report on my neighbors smoking pot that the government didn't get a cut of, or my neighbor talking bad about the government. I'm going to report on real terrorists. Coming up, stay with us. folks. We are back live. I'm wearing headphones during the break. I broke my earpiece somehow. It's not working. You know what's funny? I called during the last few breaks before we called this Homeland Security phone number. I called the number I called that was on the Homeland Security See Something, Say Something website and on their flyers, and it didn't work. So, Ben, there's these terrorists everywhere. They're about to attack any minute. Nationwide, they got telescreens in Walmart, shopping malls with this phone number, and we've called the number, and it doesn't work. Let's go ahead and call the same Homeland Security number that they've got listed on their website right now on air for everybody here as we cover this, because we're illustrating right now that this whole terror threat is a way just to get us to submit to government and to basically live in fear. But I want you to hear what we heard. This is the number we've called, and it just basically says that the voicemail's full. So there's terrorists everywhere. They're trying to kill us. We're in all of this deep trouble, and the New World Order, is going to keep us safe, and it doesn't pick up. So instead, I'm going to hang up here in a moment because these numbers are already routed to the FBI, and I'm going to call the Dallas FBI on air, and I'm going to report the real terrorism that is going on. But I want you to hear this, not even go to voicemail, but this is the number that Homeland Security gives out, the number that we're calling right now here live on air, and it just goes into a dead box, basically. You can hear it ringing. And you said it rung 10 times. This is like 20 times. So we'll see if the government, supposed government, picks up here. So this is the number we called.
No message will be recorded.
Okay, so we'll hang up on that. We'll try the Dallas FBI number because they're saying see something, say something. She's saying it's our responsibility to report terror. So we're going to go ahead now for everybody listening here on this live Sunday and report evidence of terrorism that we have seen. Get that Fox News, Anwar al-Awlaki dined at Pentagon ready for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. I want to put that on screen while we talk to the FBI. Okay, are we dialing the FBI or no dice on that? Or so we are dialing them right now? Good. Here we go. Calling the Dallas FBI right now, worldwide transmission.
Good evening, Dallas FBI.
Hey, this is Alex Jones broadcasting worldwide from Austin, Texas. I wanted to report suspicious activities to you.
Okay, so what's going on, sir?
Well, what's going on is I saw a Fox News and AP article, exclusive, Al-Qaeda leader dined at Pentagon just months after 9/11, Anwar al-Awlaki. Have you heard of him?
Yes, sir.
They're reporting that he met secretly with the Pentagon brass, but they say that he ran the underwear bomber. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yes, sir.
He ran the Fort Hood shooting. I'm sure you heard of that.
Yes, sir.
He ran the Times Square bombing. I bet you heard about that.
Okay, and who are you with, sir?
Again, this is Alex Jones, broadcasting worldwide. I'm with Infowars.com, and I'm calling you to report that elements of our own government, you heard about the Gulf of Tonkin, how our own government staged the attacks on our ships to launch the Vietnam War in '64?
No, sir.
Well, I mean, my issue is our government's done this before, and Napolitano is up there at the Super Bowl saying, report terrorism, don't spy on your neighbors. I bet you heard about the telescreens going in 9,000 locations at Walmart and other places saying report on people and stuff?
No, sir.
You haven't heard of that? Well, my issue is I want to report that Reuters reported that a CIA aircraft crashed in Mexico with 3.5 tons of pure cocaine on board, and I'd like to have the FBI investigate why the CIA is dealing drugs.
Okay, sir. You want to call back tomorrow and talk to our media coordinator, sir?
Well, I would love to talk to our media coordinator, but are you an FBI agent?
I'm an intake specialist, sir, but he's out of the office today. If you call back tomorrow, I can put you in contact with our media coordinator.
Well, sir, here's the reason I called the Dallas FBI. Napolitano's up there saying report anything suspicious. And so if you have a group that's been caught doing this stuff over and over again, I have a responsibility to report on them. And she said it's my responsibility, and I agree with her. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. But the larger issue is I called the See Something, Say Something number on the Homeland Security website. Have you heard of the See Something, Say Something program?
No, sir.
Have you heard about how the head of Homeland Security is saying report anything suspicious?
What was that, sir?
Have you heard the head of Homeland Security say report anything suspicious?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm here reporting to you that the number one guy in al-Qaeda under bin Laden is secretly meeting at the Pentagon, and Fox News and AP are reporting on it. So I think that's a really, really big deal. And what I'm telling you, sir, is I tried to call the See Something, Say Something number, and it goes to some type of weird computer voicemail. And so I'm worried. I mean, if we've got a military-industrial complex staging events and staging crises as a pretext to take our liberties, or even if I believe the military-industrial complex and that there's, evil al-Qaeda hiding under every rock, how am I supposed to be able to call in and report it if they're not answering? I mean, we've got a major security issue here if I'm trying to call Homeland Security phone numbers live here on air and they're not working. I mean, I'm sure you heard about the TSA stand-down on Thanksgiving because there was going to be that national...
Sir, why are you calling the Dallas FBI? That's what I'm curious about.
I'm calling the Dallas FBI because Napolitano's on TV. She's there inspecting it. Headline, Homeland Security Secretary inspects Super Bowl site, says fans have shared responsibility for security at game and across the country. And I looked for a number in Austin in the phone book and online and couldn't find it. So the nearest big city is Dallas.
For the FBI, sir?
Yes. Would you like to give me the number to Austin? This is the FBI, correct?
Yes, sir. This is the FBI.
Okay, well, I called the Homeland Security See Something, Say Something, and I've called that 2 months ago and got a hold of them. And so they're not answering the phone. It's just some computer voice. We just called them live. So I'm calling you right now because I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. We've got the number one al-Qaeda operative at the Pentagon. I want him arrested immediately.
Okay, sir. I'll make a phone call, sir, all right?
Okay, well, we'll try to call you back. I appreciate that. All right, we're live, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I'm wearing headphones. Murphy's Law is that I went in the back office and closed the door on the little wire that was going into my ear, and it I guess, broke the wire. Do I have a backup for tomorrow's show, 11 a.m. when I kick off? Because I'm a little bit worried. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to call this hoax for what it is. We've got to come out, and by the way, we're on to something now. Just like we're on to something with Obama shutting down the coal-powered plants, and we're on to something with the TSA, and we're more and more driving national news. We're on to something here because going back about 30 minutes ago, I said, let's double-check those numbers before we call them. And my crew of 3 people in there have been nonstop calling different Homeland Security phone numbers. And guess what? Nobody's answering. And if you go back to Thanksgiving, it's admitted now the TSA stood down and didn't do the naked body scanning or the groping. And why did they do that? Because they knew there was going to be a protest. But if there's this imminent al-Qaeda threat going to hit us any minute, why, my goodness gracious, they better be answering their telephones. So Homeland Security not answering telephone calls when people are calling in with legitimate reports of things that they believe are suspicious activities. I meant to get with the FBI agent and talk about $28 trillion stolen, according to Bloomberg and AP and Reuters. And I could play congressional clips where they ask the head of the Federal Reserve, the private Federal Reserve, where's the money? And he won't say where it is. So here I am on air talking about real crimes being committed by the people running our government. Here's another one, $4+ trillion missing from the Pentagon. Maybe I should call, but that's not a crime, though. I should report on my neighbor violating their carbon laws, or I should report on a neighbor not being nice to the Easter Bunny. But I shouldn't call them live on air and bring up real issues. Well, I've done it. And so tomorrow, as soon as I get off the air here in a few minutes, tomorrow I am going to call dozens of numbers on air. I'm going to call number after number. And I'm going to call the White House if I have to. And I'm going to call the San Antonio and the Albuquerque FBI. And I'm going to call the Los Angeles and the New York FBI. And I'm going to call Homeland Security and local threat fusion centers until they answer the telephone. Because I promised you to call them and put them on the hot seat live here on air. And I told him he was live on air so they can answer those questions. Now, the retransmission's coming up here in about a minute at Infowars.com on the audio streams. You missed the first hour. I broke down the White House responding to the PrisonPlanet.com article dealing with the carbon taxes shutting down our power plants and triggering the power outages because we don't have enough systems to supply us during peak use periods with all their smart meters and the rest of it. So retransmission starts now at Infowars.com. Great job, crew. Stay with us. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.